Donald Trump's reelection 52 days ago highlighted the complete rejection of the woke policies that the Biden administration and the Dems have spent years pushing, and an overwhelming embrace for change. And the America First policies represented by Donald Trump and groups like the Freedom Caucus, which for the first time won control of a state legislative chamber anywhere in the country. The Wyoming Freedom Caucus racked up enough wins in November to secure a majority in the state house, and they retained control in the Senate. Wyoming, the same state that rejected Liz Cheney and served her one of the worst losses for a House incumbent in history. But of course, legacy media and the left, they just can't accept the will of the Wyoming citizens who elected the Freedom Caucus into power. The New York Times out with a piece to malign the group, filling it with alarmist language aimed at portraying this win as a dangerous thing. The article cites many Wyoming Democrats portraying the group as a threat to the cowboy state. One quote reads, "I think it's up to us to try to protect the system, minimize that damage. We have had a change of leadership over in the House that frankly wants to burn it all down." The fear-mongering and hand-wringing continues. Another line in the article reads, "If the Freedom Caucus is in power for 4 years and we don't get the right governor elected, the effects will show up in 4 or 5 years, and then it'll be a decade for us to pull ourselves back." So forget about the will of the Wyoming people. It only matters what the liberal elites at the New York Times think. And the New York Times is telling you that America First Freedom Caucus, voted into power by those actually living and voting in Wyoming, is actually not what the citizens of Wyoming need. You know, that whole democracy thing, so overrated. We're joined now by 2 Wyoming state representatives from the Freedom Caucus, the next Speaker Pro Tem, Jeremy Haroldson, as well as Chip Neiman. So the House Speaker, and I'm glad, Chip, that you're with us because, first of all, why on earth would you want a Wyoming quality of life and values when you can have what the New York Times pushes, like lawlessness, open-air drug dens, sanctuaries for illegal aliens, high taxes and tolls, and government smothering you and controlling your life? What's wrong with you?
I don't know, Rob. Thanks for having us on tonight. I guess we just don't realize how bad off we really are out here. But I think Wyoming's in good position, and I look for a lot of really wonderful things to happen here. It's a very exciting time in Wyoming, and I think we do pretty well here in Wyoming. Thank you very much.
It's a beautiful state. So, Jeremy, yes, you were also quoted in the New York Times in that hit piece saying we're going to unwoke the state. So how do you plan on unwoking Wyoming? And first of all, why does Wyoming need to be unwoked? You know, does it have anything to do with all the liberals from California and New York moving out to Jackson Hole?
Well, Rob, thank you very much for having us on. And I think that to answer that question, we have to actually talk about the fact that Wyoming has very conservative values. I'd say we're the most conservative state in the union, but our government wasn't. And so as we, the people, kind of slept and just went about our lives, we got to see the Capitol and we got to see the legislature in Cheyenne push things through and allow things through that ultimately were not good. Case in point, my daughter ran track against a boy in Wyoming. And so that was a bill we had to run and are continue to clean up. We've got DEI in our publicly funded university just over the hill from us here. We are fighting time and time again issues like sanctuary cities and stuff like that. So when I say we're going to unwoke the state, what we're going to do is we're going to bring solid conservative legislation that protect the people, protect their way of life, and protect the freedoms we love and hold dear in Wyoming.
So, Chip, tell me about the 5 key bills that you guys want to get passed in the first 10 days of the session. It's the 5 and Dime plan. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Rob, the 5 and Dime is a set of 5 pieces of legislation that what we really did, Rob, is we put together a poll a couple months ago, and we went out and we talked to the people of Wyoming, and we got their feedback on what they were very, very passionate about. And also when we were running for our offices door to door, we were able to have these conversations with people and find out really what's important to them. And one of the very first things that was important to them was election integrity. They wanted to make sure that our elections were honest, that only Wyoming citizens that were U.S. citizens were voting in our elections. They were very passionate about making sure that we got all of the, what shall you say, like Representative Haroldson said, my speaker pro tem, they wanted to get rid of the DEI. That was important to them, making sure that we respect the women's privacy, and that was a key issue for them. Another issue, quite interestingly, was to make sure that we invalidate driver's licenses that have been allowed to illegal aliens from other states, so that we don't recognize those in Wyoming and allow people to vote and to do business with those identifications. Another thing is very critical to Wyoming, and it's very critical to this nation, is they want us to push back on this ESG. They believe in protecting our legacy industries. Wyoming produces almost 40% of the energy this country uses, and we've had a real attack by the previous administration on undermining that ability to provide that, basically energy security. And so our people want us to make sure that we invest our dollars in companies that are going to support our legacy industries and not undermine them. And then number 5 was making sure that we address property taxes, because we've seen a huge influx in the number of people moving into Wyoming from other states where they've just finally hit their limit and they're voting with their vehicles, and they're moving to more conservative states like Wyoming. And with that comes an increase in property values. And so, and how we do it in Wyoming is based on a fair market value. So that has put some tremendous pressure on folks on fixed incomes and our veterans. And so they wanted us to address that. And we're going to do our very best to make sure that those things are addressed and respect the will of the people. That's what we're there to do.
Jeremy, quickly, how are you going to bring the establishment Republicans or the more moderate Republicans along? Because this is a test case for a lot of other states. They're watching how you do and if you can accomplish this.
Absolutely, Rob. So I think we need to understand that none of these concepts are at all extreme. This is the Republican platform. And so how do we bring the more moderates along? I think a big part of it is the winds are changing in the Wyoming House. We've changed the structure and we're changing the culture. And we're going to abide by that Republican platform again and say, you know what, we're going to bring conservative legislation forward. And we're going to do what actually is best for the people. We brought this, there were 5 bills in the 5 and dime, but there's actually a 2020 vision beyond that. And these are the rest of the bills that the people said, hey, we really want to see these take place. And we don't have time to talk about all of them, but things like eliminating gun-free zones and preserving the rights when it comes to the voting machines and anti-SLAPP and protecting from kind of the overreach we saw with COVID and just things that this is stuff that we all want. I think all of us want freedom in America, and even the moderates, I think that they're so concerned about losing power, but really when it's all said and done, these things align with the Republican platform, and not only that, they align with our constituents.
You got a lot of people shaking their heads up and down saying, yeah, oh, you guys got to do it. You guys got to win this one. Don't Colorado or California, they're Wyoming, all right? Thank you, guys. We appreciate you coming on tonight. Good luck with that.